Yo, what's good, y'all? You dub back here again here in 2019. Let's get it. Bringing you more new, fresh content. Now, it's interesting because I promised y'all more Star Wars content, right? And, it's been a little while, but this is not a Star Wars related channel. So I like to give it time and like to, gain more knowledge. I like to bring y'all legitimate discussions, um, legitimate reasons for bringing all this discussion because I like to bring it to where nobody else is talking about it. Bring it to where it's not something else that people consider or bringing a different perspective. As Obi-Wan Kenobi said, from a certain point of view. Love that phrase. I've been using that a hell of a lot recently. So a few days ago, like maybe 5 days ago, I was watching video dealing, I forget if it was Stupendous Wave. I don't believe it was Star Wars Theory. I think it was Stupendous Way. He was talking about Dooku and Dooku's plan for the Sith Order, okay, for the Sith. And he was honestly right. Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious should have listened to him, and honestly, the Sith would have won, and the Sith would have been sustained. And there was a video that Eckhart's Ladder did, like, I don't remember how many years ago, a year or two ago, maybe three. I think it was two. But anyways, I watched a few days ago, 3 or 5 days, whatever, where he talked about all the eras of the Sith. Okay, and when you look at it, the Sith were always doomed to fail. And I'm gonna look at before I remember a few months back, several months back at this point maybe, where the I did the video on the fall of the Jedi Order and I did the video on the fall of the Sith Order, but that was mainly towards right around the era of the Clone Wars throughout pretty much the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, but I didn't get into all the eras. Okay, and this one is going to go break down pretty much all the eras of the Sith, meaning they're established how they, you know, structured themselves. There's five or so ways, okay, that they did what they did, and dissect as to why they were doomed to fail. But if they would have actually listened to Darth Tyrannus, who was Sith, but he wasn't Sith. He was a Sith Lord in name, but not really Sith Lord in thought. And they should have listened to it, this Jedi Master level kind of, this former Jedi Master. If they would have listened to him, the Sith would have been thriving. And in fact, the Sith probably wouldn't have gone as ugly as it did. And in fact, you wouldn't have had a number of things fall, okay, in disgrace and burn down the Sith, really burn down both orders, the Sith and the Jedi Order. But if we're going about Legends continuity, the Jedi Order got remade, the Sith died. Even though they tried to come back. Well, you did have a couple attempts at coming back. But anyways, moving on. First off, let's go back to the ancient Sith. Okay, the ancient Sith when they first, with the old ancient Sith race, as well as beginning as Dark Lords, right? From that era on to most of Sith history, it was the rule of might. I'll call it right. Rule of might. Might makes right. We know how it works in this world. The most powerful raise up and reign. Now you can say, well, what's wrong with that? With the most powerful, don't the Jedi have grandmasters who are the most powerful? Yeah, kinda. Jedi Masters most powerful? Yes, they are, but there's more to it, and there's a lot of them. Pretty much, you had to be subservient to the most powerful in the Sith, and there was jealousy. There was envy, and envy was the worst part about it. There was greed. There was abuse of the concept of power, and so the Sith were constantly warring as much with their rivals, the Jedi, as well as or their enemies, depending on which time period you're talking about, as well as themselves. They were destroying themselves. You cannot have an order where you're just self-destructive. So the rule of the might was never going to work because number one, might fades. That's point. Number two, that's an important point. Might fades. Important point number two is that you cause resentment to rise. You don't cause loyalty. You cause people to get pissed off at your ass. So there's that. Moving on to the next era, I would say, would be the era where I'll just go it to where there was a brotherhood. Okay, the Brotherhood of Darkness, where the Sith were pretty much ruling. Well, no, before that one, I'll get to the aristocratic Sith, where the Sith, there might not be the ruler might reign supreme Sith, where they're jockeying for whoever's the strongest. It was the where they live lavishly, where they living out here like kings and warlords and stuff. Yeah, that was bound to fail. That's more sustainable than the rule of might, but that's bound to fail because again, you're not addressing the elephant in the room of envy. You're showcasing, you're living all flashing out here for what? Yes, you're gaining your personal, but as an order that is not sustainable. So again, while it didn't cause as much resentment and while there wasn't as much infighting initially, you're going to not be as strong in the force. You're going to not be as focused as you need to be. You're not going to pass on as much knowledge. It's about I get mine. It's hedonistically living, and hedonistically living isn't sustainable for long periods of time. Now we move to the Brotherhood of Darkness, and you can say, well, here's what a lot of people want to bring up as a counter to why what Count Dooku said wouldn't work. Well, I don't think Dooku was promoting the same thing as what the Brotherhood of Darkness did. So the Brotherhood of Darkness is like, no more Darth Lords, no more Dark Lords of Sith. We're just gonna, all live kumbaya, la 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 la, like we're the Smurfs or some shit. Like we're not gonna be like the Jedi, but we're going to, we're just gonna, everybody's just gonna be cool. And we're gonna get along, and we're gonna roll together. You're still trying to rule, but you're trying to rule together. That doesn't work in gangs. That doesn't work in MCs, motorcycle club. That doesn't work in any group. You can't if you don't have proper leadership. So what all of this is, you have a bunch of infighting, you have a bunch of conniving. You still haven't dealt with the issue of envy in the Sith. You still didn't deal with the main issue, which is envy in the Sith. And now you have a diluted order. Now they're not even weak like they were powerful in the past at least. Now you have a bunch of pussified Siths or Sith in name. So of course that's gonna fail. Then you have Darth Bane rise up. Darth Bane says, "All right, enough is this mess. Too many Sith, too many problems." Now, I say this doesn't solve the problem, but okay. This was the longest reign. As far as I know, this was the longest era, at least as far as it's successful. But then again, it's hard to say because you had other eras that they went for thousands upon thousands of years, but there were constant conflicts and constant issues. But anyways, the Sith, there can only be two: master and apprentice. Sith Lord and his apprentice, his pupil. And eventually, the pupil kills the Sith Lord in battle or whatever, and takes over. Okay. Now, I did entire video, I believe, on the issues of the Rule 2. Almost did a video on the issues of the Rule 1, which is after this one. But so there's really actually six kind of errors. So the Rule of 2, I would say, existed up until the time of Palpatine. Okay, to the time of Darth Sidious. And the Rule of 2, its problem was too few numbers. Yeah, they worked in the shadows, but it took so damn long to gain galactic power, galactic, authority. If that the goal was the empire, the goal was all these the lords, but what about the individuals? Yeah, they created very, very powerful Sith, but too few in number. Just too few. Doesn't matter how powerful you are, you had an entire Jedi, you had too many enemies. Okay? And this actually hurt by the time, excuse me, by the time of the Galactic Empire is part of the reason that the Empire fell. You know? But so okay, you get the ruler two, they take over. Then you have, as someone jokingly said, the ruler 1.5. Like it's Sidious, and he wanted, you know, apprentices to be his pawns. He was always looking for the better, the best apprentices, the better, the better, better. A bunch of them, but he wouldn't acknowledge people, you know, as proper apprentices to take them over because he thought it could be done through him. Okay. and he was using people's pawns. Darth Maul. Okay, he was a Sith assassin. He wasn't a true Sith Lord. Darth Tyrannus. He was a Sith Lord in name only. You know, he had the power, he had the skill, but he was just used again as a pawn. Darth Vader. Now he would have been more of the apprentice, but then his failure, and then so Sidious had him more of as an imperial enforcer. It was only Sidious. It was always only Sidious. I mean, there were other dark side users and potential Sith apprentices, but Sidious was too consumed in himself to understand the future goal of the Sith. So the Sith seeming to die with Sidious and with Vader, right? Then you had Darth Crate's Rule of One, to where this is kind of the cycle repeats itself, but it's a little bit different this time. This is like a combination of, Sidious and the original Dark Lords. So Darth Crate is like, yeah, it's going to be me. We can have other Sith, but all Sith are ruling under me. He's the supreme one. Yeah, what happens when he dies? Others want that throne. Again, you're causing back to the same resentment, but he's doing in the way of cities to where he has pawns. He just has more pawns than cities. So do you see the issue with the Sith? The Sith always were fighting the same issues instead of understanding the power that they held. Now some can say, well, the Sith, the more wait, was the light side somehow diluted because there were so many Jedi? I don't think so. Oh, the dark side's diluted because there's so many Sith. What is it? This is not the Orange Lantern of avarice in DC Comics. Man, this ain't no Larfleeze situation. Are you kidding me? There's a lot of dark Jedi. Did that take away from the dark side? Was there infinite pool? Is this a Speed Force in DC Comics? Like, what are we talking? We need a Reverse Flash, a negative Speed Force situation. What are we talking about here, dog? Well, I don't see an Eobard Thawne. Like, what are you talking about right now, dog? So you got that nonsense. So let's briefly go over Emperor Palpatine, right? So Palpatine, I mean, not Palpatine. Yeah, well, Palpatine rejected this. He should have listened to, or should have gone by the well, how to put this, the plan of Tyrannus. All right, if he went by Dooku was right. I keep bringing this up. Dooku was like, he thought, okay, bring in Vader, bring in Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, bring in young Anakin Skywalker and make them Dark Lords. Together we rule with might. Pretty much what it would have done is it would have created Jedi Order but Sith version. And what I mean by that, the Sith Order, instead of all the, there would have been training, Asajj Ventress. Potentially if Sidious was smart, he would have brought back in Darth Maul. He would have brought back in Savage Opress, right? So he would have brought back in all these cats. If and there would have been other powerful, if you want to go by the continuity with Star Killer and all that. Think about how the Sith Order could have been, all right? Especially if you execute Order 66. You have Star Killer, you have Vader, you have Asajj, you know, you have Ventress, you have, Maul, Savage Opress, potentially. You have all these cats, fam. You have all these cats. You have Dooku, Vader, and Kenobi. Potentially Mace Windu if you can flip him. Dude, imagine the Sith Order. Palpatine, because you had these cats who weren't obsessed with the dark side. They were dark side users, yes. And you could say, well, they all served on their Palpatine. You could all, maybe they, you could say, well, they wanted to take out Palpatine. Maybe Palpatine may have eventually need to be taken out. But you had dudes, and then Luke Skywalker. Dude, you had so much potential. Oh, imagine this. Imagine a Sith Order. And maybe even sway Yoda with his old ass. Maybe sway him. He's a little bit questionable. But imagine a Sith Order where you have Vader. Maybe Palpatine needs to go. Maybe Darth Sidious needs to get eventually taken out. But eventually you have doggone Anakin, the chosen one, being the lead. Under you have Count Dooku if he survives. Initially you'll have a Count Dooku Anakin Skywalker, Kenobi, potentially Mace Windu, potentially Yoda, and Sidious. Under them you have Darth Maul on the rise. You have Asad. So you have all those cats, right? Eventually, let's look at it. Palpatine potentially, and maybe he gets off. Maybe they select that he needs to go. So Dooku may or may not have survived because of his age. Let's say Dooku's dead now because he's old now, right? So now you have Anakin. You have Vader. You have Obi-Wan Kenobi. You have Yoda may have either retired or he doesn't join or he's dead. Mace Windu 3, right? Maul, Savage Opress, Ventress, okay? And then as time goes on, Anakin. Some of these cats, I don't know how long they live, but Anakin's there, and eventually Luke comes up, and Leia. Do you see where you could start the lineage and it goes on and on and on? You see how the Sith Order continues. If they would have done it right and gained all the allies. But no, Sidious wants to destroy everything. Sidious destroyed everything. He destroyed everything. And it also left the galaxy vulnerable to the Yuzon Vaughn. Man, Sidious, you screwed up. For as an intellectual as your hubris nearly cost the galaxy everything. What did it cost? Everything. Unexpected one to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on this matter. Dog, imagine a Sith Order with these many stupidly, some of the most powerful dark side users ever. Ever. And if they could have turned Yoda. The Sith Order, it would have just kept going and going and going. What would have stopped that Sith Order, bro? At its peak, Yoda, if you had Yoda, Sidious. Oh yeah, Sidious had to go. If Yoda and Mace Windu, if Yoda, Mace Windu, and Kenobi all join, oh, he got to go. But you got Anakin, you got Count Dooku, you got Yoda, you got Kenobi, and Windu. Bro, that lineup though, with or without Order 66. Even if they didn't do Order 66, they running through the Jedi Order, bruh. I like to see Kit Fisto and Plo Koon too if we just go on fantasy team. But anyways, all right, y'all. Peace.